So while this show is going to be something of an NPR react, or I'm going to somewhat criticize an NPR spot on climate change and what's going on right now in July of 2023, I just want to point out that NPR does have pretty high journalistic standards, and while I believe it also has its own influences from the petrochemical fossil fuel industry, it still does a better job, and it is tying in climate change with the extreme weather events more than it used to. But remember, it's those influences from petrochemical fossil fuels as well as attribution science, the way that's handled by scientists, that has really critically slowed down the reporting on this issue. So first of all, just note the title of the article I'm going to critique here. El Nino will likely continue into early 2024, driving even more hot weather, by Rebecca Hersher. So notice that's the headline. The headline isn't leading with climate change, and that's the story because that's actionable. The cutting back of carbon emissions and the just general overconsumption, that's actionable. El Nino itself is not actionable in a political sense. Now here the report cites El Nino and climate change as setting us up for more continued hot weather.
On top of all the record-breaking heat we've already seen this summer, NPR's Rebecca Hersher reports that climate change and El Nino are to blame.
And that alone is a major step up in coverage, because in the past I would just hear El Nino attributed and no one even mentioning the fact that our planet has been heating up overall, a process set in motion largely by the excessive burning of fossil fuels, the accumulation of all those heat-trapping gases. But what that framing within the body of the story leaves out is that El Ninos themselves are influenced by climate change. Like I heard one reporter, or was an activist, still trying to find the exact quote for you, stated something like, all weather phenomena are born out of this hotter planet now, so you can't just nitpick what's climate change, what isn't. And indeed, to wit, I found a 2016 article by Yale 360 explaining the connection between climate change or global warming and intensifying El Ninos. Stands to reason, it's common sense, the two are related. To heat up the planet, El Ninos are going to get hotter along with it. Now, what I found pretty cool about this article was that the article took the time to explain a feedback loop that is a little maybe newer on my radar.
The heat waves that already happened this summer actually make that future hot weather more likely because the heat transforms the land itself.
And that's what I'm calling aridification and heat, meaning as an area like the American West or Somalia, these areas that are already somewhat dry to begin with, as they heat up, first it's going to evaporate the water, is my understanding of how this works. That evaporates the water so it doesn't get hot right away. That water evaporation sort of cools things down. But then, as you lose that water, now the ground itself is heating up. Then that ground in turn radiates more heat into the air, and now there's just overall less water around to evaporate, and that region gets hotter and gradually dries out more.
That's called a feedback loop. Hot, dry weather causes more hot, dry weather.
Really amazingly mentioned in the article is that then affects cloud coverage.
Once the moisture has dried up, there's less water available to make clouds, which would then fall as rain. So the dry soil stays dry.
And not mentioned in this article, but remember I've mentioned to you before, the weakening of our oceanic and atmospheric currents also plays a role in this, because these weather patterns can just linger in place longer, just really drying out an area, or conversely just really pounding an area with rains. And this loss of regional cloud coverage due to that aridification, well, this is a really massive problem, because this can eventually change weather patterns. It is already. And that's something I've heard mentioned as one of the consequences in the loss of Amazon rainforest. Same, it's going to affect cloud coverage worldwide, or at least within the Americas. Now, Ms. Hersher concludes with, in a sense is a call to activism, but in another sense sort of downplays the gravity of the situation.
Such feedback loops are a hallmark of human-caused climate change because the whole planet is heating up. There's a way out, though. If humans stop emitting greenhouse gases, temperatures will stop rising.
Well, sadly, that train has left the station. Okay, that would have been true years ago, decades ago. I've seen some really times we came close. I was hopeful it was going to happen, and people just walked away from it. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't stop emitting. We darn well should, and we should have done it a long time ago. Most of the scenarios I've seen show you keep going on, how we're talking between really hell or, I guess, purgatory. But these feedback loops that are kicking in, I told you before, a big one in this, I'm studying to PBS, a PBS special. One was that we lose that Arctic ice, we lose that reflector off the planet, more heat absorbs into the water, more ice is lost, the whole planet keeps heating. Ditto for the thawing of the permafrost, could be a big methane or carbon bomb being emitted into the atmosphere. So people need to be aware there really isn't time to always just turn off the spigot when we all get it. The time to turn off the spigot's now, the spigot to fossil fuels. It was a while ago, really. And Ms. Hersher, if you happen to watch this one, maybe you'll reframe your coverage a bit, or even check out that Yale 360 article I'm telling you about El Ninos and climate change, because it's not climate change and El Nino. The whole thing's just part of one big interrelated system. Well, hey, partner, I hope you found this helpful, interesting, good food for thought, enlightening. If so, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, you click that notification bell, you're liking, you're commenting. And as always, until next time, peace be with you.